Hi everybody, it's the first video of the new year. It's watercolor, it's figures. Let's jump straight into it. Hi everybody and welcome back. As I said at the start, it is my first video of 2021 and I want to wish each and every one of you out there a happy new year, a happy painting year, and let's stay safe through this current dilemmas that we all find ourselves in. With that all said and done, I wanted to revisit an old subject, which is painting figures in watercolor. Now there is a link here to video that I did way back a year or so back, which has gone down very well. Lots of people have watched that over the last year, maybe even longer than that now. And I just wanted to revisit the idea again and just see how I can add something to that for you to get something from. Before I go any further, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you who are subscribers to my channel, who do follow me and support the channel on all the efforts that I go into creating my videos. Now the thing is, if you are watching this and you do enjoy the content that I put out there, and if you're not a subscriber, please help me by subscribing. It doesn't cost you a penny to do that, but you are showing YouTube that I am a worthy channel to help promote, and therefore it helps me reach so many more people around the world. And that is really what I'm trying to do, is just to get my content out there in front of other people so I can help more people. And don't forget, there is the live stream every Monday evening. It's resumed now, so every Monday there is a new live stream, 7 o'clock London time. Join me for that and say hi in the chat, and don't forget to hop on over to my Patreon. It's there, it's growing, and I love what I'm doing there. I really am committed in 2021 to creating as much content for my Patreon and to help as many patrons who wish to come on board. And it doesn't cost you much. $5 or $10 a month is not an awful lot for the amount of effort that goes into creating tons of content for you to enjoy and to learn from, and also a free community page on Facebook that we can interact and chat with each other, and I can help you with work that you're working on. So all of those things are well worth looking at, and the details and the link is in the description in the show more tab under this and every other video. So hop on over. I love to see you there and love to welcome you on board as a patron. That all said, let's talk about figures and let's talk about how I'm going about them at the moment. And I just wanted to tell you that I keep all my old pieces of paper. If I do a real bad painting, and we all do them, no one is exempt from that. We can all have off days. We can all create a piece of work that just doesn't pan out, and I keep all those pieces of paper. They work out for little tryouts, little ways of practice. And this piece of paper that I'm using right now is a piece of practice paper that had a nice painting on the other side until I wrecked it, and so it's being used, turned over and being used as a practice piece. So keep all of those, because it doesn't matter whether you're practicing people, cars, bushes, trees, doesn't matter what, just practice, keep them all, and it saves well, it really does work out for you. So with that all said and done, I want to get into this now and see where we go. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you get something from it. All the best to you. Leave any comments underneath if you've enjoyed this, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye bye. Okay, welcome back. So let's get on with this. Now I'm using a very dirty piece of paper. It is a reject. There was a painting on the other side that really just didn't go to plan. So I felt that it would be great just to turn it over and see how we can play around with some figures. Now I've done one of these videos before, and I will put the link in the video above so that you can take a look at that one if you wish to. But what I wanted to just talk about is doing some more figures, and I just enjoy this. It's a great little exercise, and I'm just going to put in a few shapes here now that are 1 or 2 people walking around, and I'm using up some of the old paint on my palette before I carry on and bring in any new ones. And with that said and done, I'm automatically doing it, but it's just a case of looking and seeing how you can create the sense of somebody walking like so. And I'm not putting too much water with these ones. I did with the first video, I put a lot of water into those, and that's fine, it worked very well. But I do like this. This is when I do put some more water in, and I can create some nice little effects where you get colour bleeding into colour. And that really does work out very, very nicely. Now I'm going to come back in with that colour, just give this one a little bit more shape before I put a head on the figure. So there we are, a little bit of shape out to that one. Got a hand in a pocket. I'm saying she, could be a male. I've no idea. I'm just going to put in a little suggestion of a head on the figures like so, and we've got two people walking already. It didn't take a lot. Now I'm going to come in. Now the thing about crowds of people, if you've got a lot of people, they could be a lot further away, like this one. Dark hair maybe walking away. Let's put in a yellowish top. Now this person is going to be much further away than these ones. But you notice that when I do that, I've actually got the heads almost on the same line. And that's because when you're looking at crowds of people, unless they're really tall or really short, their heads, doesn't matter where they are going to be on your sight line, on your horizon line. So it's worth bearing that in mind. Let's put another figure there, and maybe, and I'm just picking random colours, and I'm going to put that person in front of this one. Now you see I've left a little bit of a shadow or bit of white paper around there. It's just so that that yellow figure gets a little bit more light, and it just separates it from this one. So let's put this one here, this shadow here, this figure, sorry, not shadow, talking to the first one. Let's give it a little bit of a red top. Now I'm not putting too much paint with this, but they are two figures that are standing together and much smaller, much further away than these ones, as you can see. Now we can give even more scale. We can actually come in with somebody that is maybe a little bigger, like so. And I'm doing this as fast as I can. I don't want this to be a protracted video. I just want to give you some idea of what and how you can create these figures in the landscape or in a cityscape or anything you want to produce them in. There we are. Let's just put some base to this one, and by creating little movements with the brush you can create the sense of walking, movement, movement away, movement to you. It doesn't really matter, but that figure, the head is a little bigger and it's on the same sort of line, and all these figures work because of that. Let's just come in with maybe a little bit of dark hair on one. Now let's put one over here that's dark haired, maybe a bit of a red top, and all my figures pretty much are the same at the moment. I'm not putting too much into sort of detail in terms of clothing. I'm just sort of suggesting shape and form for you. So there we got somebody now walking like so. Maybe, I don't know, got a little skirt on or something like that, a lady, something of that nature. There we go. So there's somebody walking there, but again the head's on a very, very similar line, and you've got different scales. You've got different areas of people walking away from you, which is all good. It all works. Now I'm going to put in maybe a little violet, maybe a bit of magenta, a bit of blue, and just suggest that these are anchored down to the ground, as it were, like so. You get a nice feeling that they are attached to terra firma in this fashion, like that. And you can bring all of these very much in the same way, like that. And then these people like so. Just little suggestive marks that they are all with the same light, walking in the same way. And you create people, as I said, you keep an eye on the head height, head size, the body size, and you create little areas of light around, and we can carry that idea on. We can come back in, we can put in more figures. We can actually put in somebody here, and we will come round with a bit of a red top. So we're going to look at that and going to leave that nice little shape around this figure, bringing it down. You can keep this going all day, and the idea is that the more you do this sort of practice, the more familiar you become with people, figures and statements of this nature. You can just carry on taking all your odd little bits of paper that haven't made the grade, as indeed this one hasn't made the grade for some reason or another, and I can then create lots of little practice pieces on here. This probably, I could have divided this up into much smaller pieces of paper in terms of what I use to practice on. Let's put that person there. Okay, that's all good. And as I say, yeah, you can create so much from little bits of paper that you've saved, and you just keep practicing. And let's just put somebody between these people. Let's just put somebody in here, much smaller head, and we will make a difference with the clothing so that we can give a good view of that. Now, these are pretty much just simple colors that are going in. You can, of course, you can create much more in terms of shadows and lights on all the figures that you put in. So bring that figure down through there. So take that down. Probably not as successful at this point as I could have made it, but it's still there. Give that a little dash through there, and maybe strengthen one or two of these. Actually, the value of this shadow will be a lot deeper as it comes this way, but you get the idea. And now we've got a crowd building, and the idea was to show you how you can manipulate these little shapes and create people in your work. Now, the thing also is to bear in mind not to make all of them step and repeat. They're not all the same. Just create different marks, different figures, some closer together than others, and so you get a random pattern of people in your painting. Now here you see it's pretty much one color of red, but I could come back in and just tap in this side, bearing in mind I've got light on this side, so I can just tap in a suggested dark shadow down here like that. And I can do very much the same thing on this figure here, just by dropping some pigment in, maybe some indigo in this case, and just create that little darker side to the figure. And indeed you can come back in and you can lighten up. If you've got a damp brush, just take off some of the pigment on one side like so, and that will dry up just a little shade or two lighter than you had it. Let's just keep the idea of these shadows forming of people. We seem to have two queues of people, two lines of people working out, but that's all part and fun. Let's just break this up a little bit more. Let's just put in a few other random shapes. Now this is just using one color. It could be somebody in a foggy situation like so, and trying to create the idea that there is movement, there is narrative to a composition. So you've got these people walking, but they are just little statements. The brain will nevertheless join the dots for you. You can actually create somebody like this walking around doing something, linking arms around the back, and it doesn't have to be full of color. It can be just this very ephemeral, soft looking line of color that you just, it's the brush marks, and that's all it is. And there could be a little kitty, or it could be a whole family, who knows. It could be a little toddler there holding the parent's arm like so. Just very small person. There we are, just a kitty holding on to dad there. walking along, and again you can create the shadows whichever way you want to. It doesn't really make a lot of odds. It's just nice to have that shadow in a sense, because it does tie them down to the ground. And even on a, well, I suppose that you won't get so much of that on a dull day, but by the same token, you know, it's invariably you're going to get some sort of shadow, even if it's a very soft one. Now let's just create somebody that's a little larger. Let's just bring that shape in, and I don't know, I'm trying to create suggestions now of just very, very lost figures walking down the road. Let's change the direction of the shadow on this one. Let's bring it down like this and make it as though they're walking through a wet, splashy puddle, and you've got a reflection of that person like so, which is quite a nice idea. It does do away with the need to putting in a shadow. You're now using the tie down, as it were, into the form of a reflection in maybe a wet area like so. You can create water, and you've got a lovely sense of somebody walking through the rain. You can do the same thing. You can put a nice bit of shadow color in, and this is all working very, very quickly and not from reference. This is just straight out of the head. And let's put in somebody with this person, but now they've got a bit of an umbrella up, so you can't see too much of their head. You're just trying to get the shape of a brolly, as it were, and then the figure walking along beside them like so. If I get this right, and maybe they're holding hands again, something like that. Let's put a bit of a cast shadow under here, because obviously the umbrella will give a shadow. So let's put in a shadow around this side and the base, assuming the light is coming from there still. A little bit more dark coming down here. So let's make this the gentleman, and let's bring him down in this fashion like that. Doesn't need too much, and we can put in some lovely patterns to suggest that he also is reflected in the rain like so. Doesn't take a lot, as I said. Put a bit more dark in under here, and like that. He's got his arm. We can bring his arm across under that person. There we go. So we've got something of that nature, and you can refine the drawing as much as you really wish to. You can actually put a splash of colour into the edge of this brolly, so that it is not a dark brolly in the terms of the dark blue, but it could be in fact a nice red brolly like so, and bring that value down across, and he's holding that brolly low over his head, and so you've got that suggestion. It probably could have been better, but at least it gives you the idea. So we've got people walking in the wet, and let's just come back in, and where yeah, let's just put a few very, very wet figures in. We haven't done too much wet in wet, so let's just put in a couple of figures that are very much you can see very wet, and we can drop colors into that, maybe a little stronger color. Let that flow and play around. Some lovely turquoise in there. Just bring that in. Maybe that could have been a little wetter than I made it, but nonetheless it's still a good figure, and we can put in a nice darkened face. Let's come back in with some more water, and I'm just using a very small number 8 round synthetic brush. It's nothing special at all. Let's bring that person in, give them a bit more body around the side of that one, and you can see where we've got these two people. They're standing, they're bleeding together in terms of colours. Let's just drop a little bit of yellow into there, and that will do its own thing. like so. It's just dropping pigment in, and you start to create lovely, beautiful effects with clothing suggested and what have you. Put a little bit of dark in on the head, and it's a little bit too red. Let's put that in. But from that simple sort of set of statements of people and creating these figures, you start to understand the form. Look at people when you're in sort of in town, and you know you're in a high street situation, and just observe. You don't really need to take tons of photos. You just observe people, and the more you look at people, and I know that's simple to say because we look at people all the time. Of course we do. We look at people when we're walking down the street to make sure we don't bump into them. But just the more you observe, the better it will become to understand different forms and different ways that we see. And if you are sitting on a bench somewhere, you know, and minding your own business as such, there's nothing stopping you just clicking the odd camera phone and in the direction of a general crowd, not picking out specific people. That's quite rude. But I mean, if you're just sitting on a bench and people are walking down past you, then just click off, fire off a few shots, and that way you start to build up this little suggestion of figures, especially when you've got tons of figures walking around, milling around in your vicinity. It's a great way of just getting a little bit of reference that they are just random figures and nothing more than that, and you can then use those figures to create practice paper and work on. Now the thing here is you can start getting other ideas. You can start putting a little dog in or something of that nature. So somebody's got a little lead, he's walking the dog, or a pushchair, something of that nature. It doesn't have to be too much. Yeah, my very poor dog, but you get the idea. Somebody's walking the dog, and again we're putting that obligatory little reflection in there, but you know, you can create more from this. So I think I probably spouted on a little too long now, but hopefully you've got something from this that you can play around with. Create different shapes, different forms. There's not too much variation in some of these, but there's nothing stopping you creating figures that are sort of running figures, you know, and you can, or maybe even somebody who is on a pedal cycle or something of that nature, just looking at maybe a motorbike. I don't know, I'm not very good at drawing vehicles in this fashion, I've got to say, but I'm just scratching around, and it could be, looks more like a low rider, doesn't it? But you get the idea. You can create all sorts of things, and if the figure isn't working out, then just change maybe the scale and the way it looks, like so. I'm doing my best to make this look a little bit more like a cycle. There's some description, but there you are. It doesn't look much like a cycle, but hopefully you get the idea. The more of this sort of stuff you do, the more you can play around with it and create something that maybe, yeah, just maybe a little better, and will add something to some of your paintings. You don't have to put figures in everything, but they do make a big difference when it comes to creating a nice sense of extras into some form of landscape, whether it's a town scene and a countryside scene. It doesn't really matter. I mean, I live near the beach, so I get an awful lot of people walking along promenades and stuff like that. So when I'm doing a landscape painting of that nature, or seascape painting, plein air, I can always tap in somebody walking, even if they are nobody around at the time. I can just put somebody in, and it just adds an extra dimension to your work. Now I will do that in oil, and I can do that in watercolor, and I might well do another one of these little painting exercises in oil, so those of you who are oil painters will get to see how I use people and create them very quickly in oil painting. Okay, well that's enough of me at the moment. Hopefully you got something from this. I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next video. Take care, have fun, and all the best to you. Bye bye.